The sky was clear blue on the day Lily Mason disappeared. Her third-grade class from Pine Creek Elementary was visiting Meadow Ridge Observatory. Everyone was excited to see the big telescopes. Lily stood a bit away from her group. She was smaller than the other 8-year-olds, with curly brown hair and bright eyes that always seemed to ask questions. While her classmates crowded around their teacher, Mrs. Peterson, Lily noticed something strange in the garden behind the observatory. It looked like lights dancing between the trees. No one else seemed to see them. Curious, Lily stepped away from her group. She just wanted to look for a minute. Mrs. Peterson was busy counting heads when she realized one was missing. "Has anyone seen Lily?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. The children looked around, shaking their heads. By nightfall, 300 people were searching the woods around the observatory. Alan Mason, Lily's father, led one search party while his wife Susan coordinated with police at their command post. Their faces were pale with worry. "We'll find her," Sheriff Daniels kept saying, but his eyes told a different story. At the observatory, FBI agents reviewed security footage. They saw Lily walking toward the garden. Then something strange happened. 3 tall, thin figures stepped out from behind the trees. The footage became blurry for a moment. When it cleared, Lily and the figures were gone. "What am I looking at?" asked Sheriff Daniels when Agent Kate Murphy showed him the footage. Agent Murphy's face was serious. "I'm not authorized to say yet, but this isn't the first case." 200 miles away, at Harrison Space Center, Dr. Jack Powell stared at his computer screen with a frown. The observatory's radar had picked up something leaving Earth's atmosphere at incredible speed right around the time Lily disappeared. It was the 3rd such reading this year. Powell reached for his phone. There were people he needed to call. 5 days passed. Search parties found nothing. Susan Mason hadn't slept more than an hour at a time since Lily vanished. Alan rarely spoke anymore. On the 6th day, black SUVs pulled up to the Masons' small house. Agent Murphy stepped out with 3 men in military uniforms and a woman in a lab coat. "Mr. and Mrs. Mason," Agent Murphy said once they were inside with the doors closed. "What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level." Susan grabbed Alan's hand tightly. "We believe Lily was taken by non-human entities," Murphy said. "In other words, beings not from Earth." Alan started to stand up, anger on his face, but Susan pulled him back down. "You're saying aliens took our daughter?" Susan asked, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. The woman in the lab coat stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Irene Coleman, Xenobiology Division. We've been tracking these visitors for several years. They've taken approximately 47 people worldwide, 11 of them children." "Why are you telling us this?" Alan asked, his voice breaking. "Because we need your help," Agent Murphy said, "and because you deserve the truth." Dr. Coleman opened her laptop and showed them images of strange writings and symbols. "These were found at every abduction site. We believe they're trying to communicate something. And we think Lily might have been special," added one of the military men, who introduced himself as General Frank Davis. "Your daughter tested in the top percentile for pattern recognition. Her school records show an unusual aptitude for languages and math." Susan's eyes narrowed. "How do you know that about our daughter?" "We've been monitoring potential targets," General Davis admitted. "We just didn't get to Lily in time." "So what now?" Alan asked, holding Susan's hand so tight his knuckles were white. Agent Murphy looked them straight in the eyes. "Now we prepare, because based on previous patterns, they'll be back. And next time, we'll be ready for them." Above Earth, beyond where the human eye could see, a massive ship drifted silently. Inside, in a room filled with strange lights, Lily Mason floated in a clear chamber, her eyes closed. She looked peaceful, almost as if she were sleeping. She wasn't. 6 weeks after Lily Mason vanished, the world changed forever. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning when every radio, TV, and phone on Earth received the same message. "Attention humans of Earth. We come in peace." People around the world stepped outside and looked up. A massive ship hung in the sky, visible from every continent. It was shaped like a giant silver oval, smooth and shining in the sunlight. Smaller crafts circled around it like moons around a planet. In Washington, D.C., President Laura Clark called an emergency meeting. Military leaders, scientists, and diplomats gathered in a secure room beneath the White House. "What do we know about them?" the president asked. Admiral Samantha Garrett stepped forward. She was tall with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "The main ship is approximately 3 miles long. Our weapons probably can't hurt it. They're calling themselves the Vorn Collective," added a man in a suit. This was Richard Hayes, the most experienced diplomat in the government. "They want to meet with Earth representatives." "Could they be the ones who took the children?" President Clark asked quietly. Dr. Powell, the astronomer who first noticed the strange readings, nodded. "The energy signature matches." 2 days later, Richard Hayes led a team of 12 people to meet the aliens. They traveled in a military helicopter to an empty field in Virginia where a small silver craft waited. "Remember," Hayes told his team, "we're here to learn and establish contact, but our main goal is to find out about the missing people." Inside the alien craft, they met the Vorn. The aliens were tall and thin with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer. They had large black eyes and 6 long fingers on each hand. They wore no clothes, but their bodies seemed covered in a thin layer of metallic scales. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community," said the tallest Vorn in perfect English. It called itself Speaker. "We have watched your planet for many cycles. You have reached a level where contact is permitted." Richard Hayes bowed slightly. "We're honored to meet you. We have many questions." "As do we," Speaker replied. Its voice was smooth but had an odd echo. "We propose an exchange of knowledge and resources that will benefit both our peoples." For hours, they talked about trade, technology, and cultural exchange. The Vorn seemed friendly and open, sharing information about their society and other alien races. Finally, Hayes asked the question everyone on Earth wanted answered. "Several dozen humans have disappeared in recent years, including children. We have evidence suggesting non-Earth beings were involved. Do you know anything about this?" Speaker's large eyes blinked slowly. "We know nothing of missing humans. Perhaps another species has visited your world without our knowledge. This is concerning." Hayes studied the alien's face, but couldn't read its expression. "Would you help us find them?" "Of course," Speaker said. "The taking of sentient beings without consent is forbidden under galactic law. We will assist in your search." When Hayes and his team returned to Earth, opinions were divided. "They seemed honest," said Dr. Nancy Kim, the team's xenobiologist. "Their biology suggests they're herbivores, not predators." But Admiral Garrett wasn't convinced. They avoided direct answers about their monitoring of Earth, and they changed the subject when we asked about their research interests. In her office that night, Admiral Garrett made a private call to an unlisted number. "Activate Project Shield," she said, "and get me everything we have on their ship's weaknesses. I don't trust them." On the Vorn mothership, Speaker entered a restricted area where few of its kind were allowed. Inside a large circular room, hundreds of transparent pods lined the walls. In many of the pods floated human forms, connected to strange machines. Speaker moved to one particular pod and placed a 6-fingered hand on the surface. Inside, Lily Mason floated unconscious, her small body surrounded by pulsing lights. "The young ones adapt so well," Speaker said to another Vorn. "This specimen shows particular promise." "And the humans suspect nothing?" asked the other. "They suspect," Speaker replied, "but they cannot prove. By the time they do, it will be too late." Dr. Ellen Wright couldn't believe her luck. The Vorn had invited her to their mothership as part of a scientific exchange. She was one of 5 human scientists chosen for this honor. Ellen was a xenobiologist, an expert in alien life forms. She had spent her whole career hoping for this moment, But she also had a secret mission. Her brother's daughter, Amy, was among the missing children. Ellen had joined this mission to find answers. "Remember to follow their rules exactly," said Richard Hayes as the scientists prepared to board the Vorn shuttle. "We can't risk offending them." Ellen nodded, patting the pocket where she kept a small device that looked like a normal pen. It was actually a scanner that could detect human DNA. The inside of the Vorn mothership was beautiful. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with soft blue light. The air smelled like mint and something else Ellen couldn't identify. Speaker led the human scientists through large rooms filled with strange equipment. "Here we study stellar formation," it explained in one room. "Here we analyze plant genetics," it said in another. Ellen noticed that certain areas were off-limits. Guards stood at some doorways, and Speaker always directed them away from these spots. During a break, while the other scientists were eating, Ellen excused herself to use the bathroom. As soon as she was alone, she took a different turn down a hallway where no guards were posted. The scanner in her pocket began to vibrate softly. Human DNA detected. Ellen's heart beat faster as she followed the signal. She came to a door that slid open automatically. Inside was a small laboratory with shelves of samples in clear containers. She quickly ran her scanner over the samples. Many contained human tissue. One sample in particular made her scanner light up brightly. The label was in alien writing, but there was also a human date and a code. Subject LM47. LM47. Lily Mason, the girl who disappeared 47 days ago. Ellen quickly took pictures with her scanner. Then she heard a noise from behind another door at the back of the lab. She shouldn't go further, but she had to know. The door opened into a much larger room. Ellen had to cover her mouth to stop from screaming. Rows and rows of clear pods filled the room. Inside each pod floated a human body. Some were adults, but many were children. Tubes and wires connected their bodies to machines that hummed and pulsed. Ellen recognized some of the faces from missing person reports. And there, in a pod near the center, was Lily Mason. The little girl looked peaceful, as if asleep, but her skin had a strange bluish tint. Something was being pumped into her pod through a thick tube. A door opened on the far side of the room. Ellen ducked behind a large machine as two Vorn entered. "The immature specimens show the best adaptation rates," one said. "Their cellular structure is more accepting of the modifications." "And what of the mature specimens?" asked the other. "Mostly failures. Their bodies reject the changes, but we learn from each attempt." Ellen felt sick. They were experimenting on humans, on children. She took as many pictures as she could, then carefully made her way back to the main group. Her hands were shaking as she rejoined the other scientists. "Are you unwell, Dr. Wright?" Speaker asked, its large black eyes studying her face. "Just overwhelmed by all the amazing technology," Ellen lied, forcing a smile. That night, after returning to Earth, Ellen met with Admiral Garrett and Richard Hayes in a secure room deep underground. "They're experimenting on them," Ellen said, her voice breaking as she showed them the evidence. "They're changing them somehow, and they're focusing on the children." Admiral Garrett's face hardened as she looked at the images of humans in pods. "This ends now," she said. Richard Hayes nodded grimly. "I'll inform the President. We need to call an emergency UN meeting." "And the Vorn?" Ellen asked. "They just made the biggest mistake in their history," Admiral Garrett said. "They harmed our children." The United Nations building in New York was surrounded by angry crowds. News of the Vorn experiments had leaked to the public. People held signs with pictures of the missing children. They chanted, "Bring them home." Inside, world leaders sat in tense silence as they watched Ellen's evidence on large screens. Some cried. Others looked sick. A few seemed ready to fight right then. President Clark stood at the podium after the video ended. "We are united today not as separate countries, but as one human family," she said. "What the Vorn have done is unforgivable." China's President Wu nodded grimly. We will stand with you. All our resources are yours to command. Similar promises came from every nation. Old enemies put aside their differences. For the first time in history, Earth spoke with one voice. Richard Hayes was chosen to deliver humanity's message to the Vorn. He stood in the UN building's main hall, facing a large screen where Speaker appeared. "We have discovered what you've been doing to our people," Hayes said, his voice steady despite his anger. "To our children." Speaker's face showed no emotion. "You were not meant to find this yet. Return all humans to us immediately," Hayes demanded. "Then leave our solar system and never return." "Or what?" Speaker asked, its voice now cold and mocking. "Or we will take them back by force," Hayes replied. Speaker made a sound like metal scraping against glass. It took Hayes a moment to realize it was laughter. "Your species amuses us," Speaker said. "Your technology is primitive. Your weapons cannot harm our ships." "Every living thing has a weakness," Hayes said. "We will find yours." Speaker leaned closer to the screen. "You misunderstand your place in the universe. You are resources, not equals. The specimens we've collected are too valuable to return." "They are not specimens. They are people. Children," Hayes said, his control slipping. "The immature ones are especially useful," Speaker replied. "Their bodies accept our modifications more readily. Their minds are easier to reshape." President Clark stepped forward. "Why target children at all? If you needed test subjects, why not approach us openly?" "Young specimens adapt better," Speaker said, as if explaining something simple. "Their neural pathways are flexible. Their organs regenerate more effectively." Hayes felt sick, but kept his face neutral. "This is your final chance. Return our people and leave." Speaker's large eyes blinked slowly. "No. And should you attempt any aggression, we will sterilize your major population centers. Millions will die." The screen went black. The hall was silent for several long seconds. Admiral Garrett was the first to speak. "Now we know where they stand, and they've confirmed they have our people." "What options do we have?" asked President Wu. "Their technology is far beyond ours." Admiral Garrett looked at Dr. Powell, who stepped forward with a thin folder. "Maybe not as far as they think," Dr. Powell said. "We've been studying them since they arrived. Their ships emit a specific energy pattern during travel. This suggests their propulsion system has a unique vulnerability." "Can we exploit this?" asked President Clark. "Possibly," Dr. Powell answered. "But we'd need to get close to their mothership, very close." "I have a team ready," Admiral Garrett said. "Small, elite, trained for exactly this kind of mission." "It would be a suicide mission," Hayes pointed out. "Maybe," Admiral Garrett agreed. "But every volunteer has a child or family member among the missing." President Clark looked around the room at the faces of world leaders. "We need time to prepare. Can we keep the Vorn distracted?" Ellen and Susan Mason, who had been sitting quietly at the back of the hall, stood up. "We can help with that," Susan said. "We'll speak to them. All the families will. We'll appeal to whatever conscience they might have." As the meeting continued, a message went out to military bases around the world. Operation Wrath of Humanity was now active. In orbit, the Vorn mothership moved closer to Earth, its weapons systems powering up. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Garrett stood in a room filled with screens and busy people. This was the command center for Operation Wrath of Humanity. Soldiers and scientists worked side by side, preparing for what many thought would be their last mission. "Our window is closing," Garrett said to the team leaders gathered around her. "The Vorn are getting suspicious of our radio silence." On the main screen, a 3D model of the Vorn mothership rotated slowly. Red dots marked possible entry points. Captain Olivia Rodriguez studied the model closely. She was in charge of the strike team, 12 soldiers chosen for their skills and personal connections to the missing. Her own nephew was among the taken. "We'll need at least 10 minutes inside to find the prisoners and plant the devices," she said. Dr. Paul Nakamura stepped forward with a metal case. He was a small man with tired eyes who hadn't slept in days. "These are the prototypes," he said, opening the case to reveal 6 small silver discs. "What exactly are they?" asked Rodriguez. "We reverse-engineered them from a piece of Vorn technology recovered from a crash site in Arizona 3 years ago," Nakamura explained. "They should disrupt their shield generators long enough for your team to slip through." "Should?" Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "They worked in our tests," Nakamura said, "but we've never tried them on the actual Vorn shields." Admiral Garrett checked her watch. "The families are about to begin their broadcast. That's your cover. While the Vorn are focused on them, you'll approach from the dark side of their ship." On televisions around the world, families of the missing gathered in a studio. Ellen and Susan Mason sat in the center. Susan held a picture of Lily. "We speak today not as enemies," Alan began, his voice steady despite his grief. "We wish to understand why you need our children. Perhaps we can find a solution that doesn't require taking them from us." As the families made their appeal, Captain Rodriguez and her team boarded their ship. It was a small craft, built in secret using a mix of Earth technology and ideas gleaned from studying the Vorn. "Remember," Rodriguez told her team as they prepared for launch, "our primary goal is rescue. The explosives are only if we can't get our people out." The ship lifted off silently from a hidden base in the desert. Its special coating made it invisible to most radar. They hoped it would hide them from Vorn sensors too. As they approached the mothership, Dr. Nakamura's voice came through their comms. "The disruptors are active. You have 7 minutes before they fail." Rodriguez took a deep breath and guided their ship toward the mothership's underside, where sensors had detected a possible access point. Meanwhile, in the broadcast studio, Susan Mason wiped away tears as she spoke directly to the camera. "Lily, if you can hear us, we love you. We're coming for you." On the Vorn ship, Speaker watched the broadcast with other leaders of its kind. "They are stalling," said one Vorn. "Their communications show increased activity near their military bases." "Let them try what they will," Speaker replied. "It amuses me to watch them beg." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. A guard rushed in. "Intruders have breached level 7. Speaker's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our shields cannot be penetrated by their technology." Back on the mothership's underside, Rodriguez's team cut through the hull and entered a dimly lit corridor. The air smelled strange, like chemicals and something rotting. "Life signs ahead," whispered Sam Lee, the team's tech specialist. "Lots of them." And they read as human. They moved quickly through the ship, avoiding patrols of Vorn guards. Finally, they'd reached a massive door marked with symbols. "This matches the room from Dr. Wright's photos," Rodriguez said. "The holding area should be inside." As they prepared to breach the door, Lee's scanner beeped urgently. "Captain, I'm picking up a different human life sign, separate from the others, and it's changing somehow." Rodriguez looked at her team. "New plan. Johnson, take half the team and free the prisoners. Davis, Lee with me. We're going to find out what's happening to that other life sign." Above them, Vorn soldiers moved into position, weapons ready. Speaker's voice echoed through the ship. "Find the humans. Kill all but the specimens in the special research chamber." Captain Rodriguez and her 2 team members moved quickly through the alien ship's winding corridors. The walls pulsed with a sickly green light that made their skin look strange. The floor felt warm under their boots, almost like it was alive. "The signal is coming from 2 levels down," Lee whispered, looking at his scanner. "There's a lift ahead." They found what looked like a round platform in the floor. When they stepped on it, it dropped quickly, making their stomachs feel funny. 5 Vorn life signs near the target, Lee said as they reached the lower level. "Heavy energy readings, too." Rodriguez nodded to Davis, who pulled out 3 small devices. These were sound dampeners, designed to mask their approach. He placed one on the floor, and suddenly all noise seemed muffled. They crept forward until they reached a large door covered in strange symbols. Through a small window, they could see into a laboratory much bigger than the one Dr. Wright had found. Inside, 5 Vorn worked around a floating platform where a small human form lay. It was Lily Mason. Rodriguez had to stop Davis from rushing in right away. "Wait," she whispered. "We need to understand what they're doing first." They watched as the Vorn connected tubes to Lily's arms and head. The little girl's skin had a blue-gray color now, and her veins glowed with an unnatural light. One Vorn held up a screen showing Lily's insides. Something was changing in her organs and blood. "They're turning her into some kind of weapon," Lee said in horror as he read the data on his scanner. "Her blood is becoming toxic. And look at her brain activity. They're rewiring her mind." Just then, Rodriguez's comm unit buzzed. It was Johnson from the other team. "Captain, we found the prisoners. Over 100 humans in stasis pods. We're starting to wake them now. But there's a problem. The ship's systems are detecting our presence. We have maybe 10 minutes before they lock us out completely." Rodriguez looked back through the window. She couldn't leave Lily behind, not after seeing what the Vorn were doing to her. "We're going in," she told her team. "Lee, download everything you can from their computers. Davis, cover me. I'll get the girl." She counted down with her fingers. 3, 2, 1. They burst into the lab, weapons firing. 2 Vorn fell immediately. The others turned with surprising speed, reaching for weapons of their own. As Davis exchanged fire with the aliens, Rodriguez ran to Lily. Up close, the changes were even more shocking. The child's fingers had grown longer, and her skin was rough like sandpaper. "Lily, can you hear me?" Rodriguez asked as she carefully removed the tubes from the girl's body. Lily's eyes fluttered open. They were still brown, but flecked with gold now. "Are you taking me home?" she asked, her voice raspy. "Yes, sweetie. We're taking you home," Rodriguez said, trying to keep her voice steady as she lifted the girl. Lily felt too light, as if her bones had hollowed out. Meanwhile, Lee had connected to the Vorn computer. "Captain, I've got something. They're files. They're not just about experiments. This is a plan. They've done this before on dozens of worlds." "Done what?" Rodriguez asked as she carried Lily toward the door. "They take children, change them, and send them back as walking biological weapons. The children eventually transform completely and release a toxin that only affects their own species. It's a way to destroy civilizations from within." Lee's face had gone pale. They were going to send Lily back as patient zero. A loud alarm started blaring through the ship. Speaker's voice echoed from hidden speakers. "All units to research level. Protect the primary specimen at all costs." "Time to go," Rodriguez shouted. As they rushed back toward their ship, carrying Lily and helping the other rescued humans, Lee continued downloading the Vorn database to a portable drive. "Got it," he said finally. "Everything. Their star charts, colony locations, biological weaknesses, everything we need to fight back." They reached their ship just as Vorn soldiers closed in from all sides. As they took off, Rodriguez looked down at Lily, who had fallen asleep in her arms. "What they did to you," she whispered, "they'll pay for it. I promise." Behind them, the Vorn mothership turned toward Earth, weapons charging. The Vorn struck first. Their weapons hit cities across Earth: New York, Beijing, London, Cairo. Millions died in the first hour. The world watched in horror as landmarks crumbled and fires spread. But humanity was not helpless. Hidden bases around the world had been preparing for this moment. Admiral Garrett stood in the command center, watching screens that showed the destruction. Her face was grim but determined. "Launch the fleet," she ordered. People around the world were shocked to see hundreds of ships rise from hidden locations, from under the ocean, from mountain bases, from the far side of the moon. Earth had been building this secret fleet since the first alien signals were detected years ago. "The U.S. Defiance is ready, Admiral," said a young officer. On the main screen, Captain Eric Bennett appeared. His ship, the U.S. Defiance, was the largest in Earth's fleet. "We're in position, Admiral. Ready to engage." "You have the data from Captain Rodriguez?" Garrett asked. Bennett nodded. "The Vorn shields have a weakness. They operate on a frequency we can disrupt with Dr. Nakamura's technology." "Then it's time," Garrett said. "Humanity fights back today." The Earth fleet moved into battle formation. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Vorn didn't expect: knowledge of the enemy's weakness. Meanwhile, in a protected underground facility, Dr. Ellen Wright worked desperately to help Lily and the other rescued children. The Vorn experiments had changed them in terrible ways. "Their DNA is being rewritten," Ellen explained to Susan and Alan Mason. "Lily's body is slowly being turned into a biological weapon designed to kill humans." "Can you stop it?" Susan asked, holding her daughter's hand. Lily lay sleeping on a hospital bed, her skin now a pale blue-gray. "I think so," Ellen said. "The process isn't complete, but we need to hurry." In space, the battle had begun. The Vorn ships fired on Earth's fleet, destroying several human vessels in the first attack. "Now," Captain Bennett ordered. His ship launched dozens of small devices toward the Vorn mothership. These were the disruptors Dr. Nakamura had created. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the Vorn shields flickered and weakened. "All ships, target their main weapons array," Bennett shouted. Earth's fleet fired everything they had. The Vorn mothership shuddered as explosions bloomed across its surface. Speaker's voice came over the communication system. "Impressive, humans, but futile. You cannot hope to defeat us." "We're not trying to defeat you," Bennett replied. "We're just keeping you busy." On the far side of the Vorn ship, away from the main battle, 3 smaller Earth ships approached quietly. They carried special forces teams with a single mission: to plant powerful bombs inside the mothership. Back in the medical facility, Dr. Wright made a breakthrough. "The Vorn data we captured shows how to reverse the process," she told the Masons, "but we need a sample of unaltered Vorn DNA to create the cure." Lee, who had survived the rescue mission, stepped forward. "I have this," he said, holding up the data drive from the Vorn ship. "There's a complete genetic profile of their species in here." Dr. Wright worked quickly, creating a treatment that might save Lily and the others. As she prepared to administer it, alarms blared through the facility. "The Vorn have found our location," a security officer announced. "They've sent ships directly here." In space, Captain Bennett saw the Vorn attack ships heading toward Earth. "They're targeting the medical facility," he realized. "They're going after the children." "Not on my watch," Bennett said. His ship broke from the main battle and moved to intercept the Vorn attackers. It was a dangerous move that left them exposed. "Captain, their main weapons are locking onto us," his first officer warned. Bennett nodded grimly. "As long as they're shooting at us, they're not shooting at those kids." He opened a channel to Admiral Garrett. "We'll hold them off. Tell Dr. Wright to hurry." The Defiance took a direct hit, its hull breaching in multiple places, but it kept fighting, protecting the path to Earth and the facility where humanity's future hung in the balance. Inside the medical facility, Dr. Wright injected Lily with the treatment as Susan and Alan watched anxiously. "Now we wait," she said. Above them, the sky burned with the largest space battle in human history. 5 years passed since the battle that humans now called the Day of Wrath. The Earth still showed scars from the Vorn attack. Some cities were still being rebuilt, but humanity had survived. More than that, they had won. In a quiet garden behind a new building in Geneva, Lily Mason sat on a bench. She was 13 now. Her skin had mostly returned to its normal color, though faint blue lines could still be seen on her arms. Her eyes still had flecks of gold in them. Her mother Susan sat beside her, watching birds in a nearby tree. "Are you nervous about today?" she asked. Lily shook her head. "No, it needs to be said. People should know why we did what we did." Inside the building, Admiral Garrett and Ambassador Hayes prepared to address the Galactic Council. Representatives from 17 alien species had come to Earth for this historic meeting. "They're ready for us," Hayes told Garrett. Both looked older now, their faces lined with the memories of difficult decisions. They walked together into a large circular room. Alien beings of many shapes and sizes watched them from tiered seats. Some looked almost human, others were utterly strange. Clouds of gas, crystalline structures, beings of pure light. "Humans of Earth," said the council leader, a tall being with silver skin, "you stand before this council to explain your actions against the Vorn Collective. You have committed what many consider genocide. What say you in your defense?" Admiral Garrett stepped forward. 5 years ago, the Vorn came to our world pretending to be peaceful. In secret, they abducted our people, our children, and performed horrific experiments on them. Ambassador Hayes continued, "When we discovered their crimes, we asked them to return our people and leave. They refused. They attacked our cities, killing millions." On a large screen behind them, images appeared. The pods with humans inside. Lily's changed body, cities in ruins. "But that is not why we destroy them," Garrett said. "During our rescue mission, we discovered the Vorn's true purpose. They were transforming our children into biological weapons to destroy humanity from within. And we weren't their first victims." Hayes nodded to an aide, who activated more images on the screen. The Vorn database revealed their history. They had done this to 47 other civilizations across the galaxy. Entire species gone, wiped out by their own children who had been turned into living weapons. The council chamber was silent. Even the most alien faces showed signs of shock or disgust. "We could have stopped at defending Earth," Garrett continued. "But the Vorn would have continued their work elsewhere. More children on more worlds would suffer. We couldn't allow that. So you hunted them to extinction," the council leader said. "Every colony, every outpost." "Yes," Hayes admitted. "Dr. Nakamura created a virus that targeted only Vorn DNA, based on their own biological weapon technology. We deployed it to every Vorn location in their database." A murmur went through the council. Some representatives leaned together, whispering. "The humans are not wrong," said a representative made of flowing water. "The Vorn records confirm their claims. 47 species gone, billions of lives ended. They targeted children specifically," added another being covered in fur. "There is no greater crime in our laws." Lily walked into the chamber then, accompanied by her mother. The room fell silent again. "I was one of those children," Lily said, her voice clear and strong. "I still feel what they did to me every day. Sometimes I still hear their voices in my dreams, telling me to hurt people." She looked around at the alien representatives. "I don't hate the Vorn anymore. But they needed to be stopped. They showed no mercy, no regret for what they did to children across the galaxy." The council leader nodded slowly. "We have reviewed all evidence presented. The council finds that humanity acted within the bounds of galactic law under the extreme threat provision. The extinction of the Vorn species, while regrettable, was justified." As they left the chamber, a reporter asked Admiral Garrett, "Do you have any regrets about what humanity did?" Garrett looked at Lily, who was talking quietly with an alien child from one of the delegations. "No," she said firmly. "They harmed a human child. Extinction was the only appropriate answer." Throughout the galaxy, word spread of humanity's response to those who threatened their young. And though many species now looked at humans with a new wariness, one thing was understood by all: never, ever harm a human child.